everybody, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. Thank you so much for joining me today to talk about all the books that I read in the month of September. It seems like it was just the beginning of September, but then I look back on the books that I read and I feel like I read them ages ago. So that being said, I read 5 books in total this month, 3 physical ones and 2 on my Kindle. But before we start, if you're not subscribed, I'd really appreciate it if you would. I do a lot of book videos here on my channel. I do some like day in my lives, week in my lives, just lifestyle like videos, and I add in some travel content every once in a while whenever I'm going on trips. So if that sounds appealing to you at all, and if you like me so far, I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe and like this video. Comment anything down below that you want. I will comment back or like every single comment because I love talking to you guys. So we're gonna go ahead and just get right in. The first book I read this month, I was in the middle of reading the Mind F series by S.T. Abbey, and I had the 4th and 5th book left to read. I read All the Lies. I rated that one 4 stars, and then I read Paint It All Red, which is the 5th book, and I rated that book 5 stars. So overall, I would rate that series 5 stars. The series is so good. If you haven't read the Mind F series by S.T. Abbey, I'm going to go ahead and tell you a little bit about it to encourage you to read it because I really enjoyed it. If you like true crime, or if some of your favorite shows are Dexter or Criminal Minds, anything like that, you will probably like this book series. It's very, very good. The main girl character, Lana, is a serial killer, and the main guy character, Agent Bennett, is, like I said, an agent in the FBI, and you get to see the like behind the scenes from Lana's POV of her committing her murders, but then you also get the POV of both of them where they meet, and Lana realizes that Logan and his team are looking for her. They don't know it's her, but they're looking for her. They're looking for this serial killer, and she realizes that it's her, and so she wants to finish committing these murders because she has a reason behind why she's doing this, and she really wants to see it through, but she also doesn't want to get caught because she loves Logan and she doesn't want to devastate him. It's really interesting. You get to see Lana immerse herself into the investigation so nobody suspects that it's her. Like I said, if you like Criminal Minds or Dexter, you'll love this, and those are 2 of my favorite shows, and I loved this series. That's all I'm gonna say about those 2 books. If the angle switched at all, it's because I had to delete some footage from my camera because it was about to run out of storage. Let's go ahead and go on to the 3 physical books I read this month. First, we're gonna talk about The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This book, I liked it so much more than I expected to. I knew that there was a ton of hype around it, but I'm a big romance reader. I basically only read romance. One reason why I really wanted to pick it up is because it's YA, and I was kind of in a book slump after finishing the Mind F series because I really liked it. You know that like post-book depression when you finish a book that you really like and you're like, well, now I've got to pick my next read, and it's probably not going to be as good as that last book that I just read, and it just like doesn't motivate you to pick up a book at all. I knew that if I picked up a YA, it probably wouldn't take me long to get through because YA is usually pretty easy to read. So I decided to pick this up. Also because I read the Mind F series and it wasn't just a romance, it was kind of like a thriller murder romance. I liked that it wasn't just romance, and so I was kind of in the mood for something that wasn't just romance, and I knew that there was like a little bit of a subplot of romance in this, but it was mainly like mystery, like riddle solving, and I don't know how to really describe it. A lot of people compare it to the movie Knives Out, if you've ever seen that, and I like that movie a lot. So I picked this up. It's the first book in a 3-book series. I had to pick up the 2nd book because I liked this one so much. This book is about Avery Grams, and she gets told one day that she needs to come to the reading of this man's will. Tobias Hawthorne, she needs to come to Tobias Hawthorne's reading of his will. And she's like, why in the world do I need to come to the reading of this millionaire's will? So she goes, and during the reading of the will, they announce that Avery inherited basically his whole fortune. Like his estate, his planes, his jets, his helicopters, his charities and companies and NFL teams, like everything he owns, she basically inherited it. Aside from a little bit of money that other people in the family inherited, she inherited everything else. And she's like, why in the world? I don't know this man. Why did he leave me his whole entire fortune? So basically the rest of this book is her, and then there's 4 Hawthorne grandsons, and they're all trying to figure out why Tobias, their grandfather, left Avery everything, all his stuff, because nobody knows. And along the way of trying to figure it out, they realize that Grampy Tobias left them some clues and some riddles to solve to figure out why he left everything to Avery. So you're basically going through the whole book with them and trying to solve these riddles with them. All 3 of the books are out. The last one did just come out, the final gambit. So I'm excited to read the second one and then pick up the third one and read that one. Then we go on to my girl Taylor Jenkins Reid. I love me some Taylor Jenkins Reid. I have one more book to read in her backlist, and then I need to read Say It With Me. If you've ever watched literally any of my book videos, I say it in every video because it's just really hard for some people to wrap their minds around. I've read almost every book in her backlist, but I haven't read Daisy Jones and the 6 or 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and I really need to read those. But for now, I've got one more book left on her backlist to read. But for now, we're going to talk about this book that I read this month. This book that I read this month, I guess this last month, which is Maybe in Another Life. This was not my favorite Taylor Jenkins Reid book, but it was still pretty good. It's about a girl named Hannah. See, I didn't even remember the main characters' names. Oops. Hannah and Ethan. She was traveling around a ton trying to figure out where she felt like she belonged. She lived in a bunch of different cities, and then she decides to move back to her hometown, LA, and she moves in with her best friend and her best friend's husband. They go out one night and they see Hannah's old high school boyfriend, and he's like, hey, want to come home with me? And that's where we get the split lives, the parallels of what Hannah's life could look like depending on which outcome she decided to choose, if that makes sense. She can either go home with Ethan and we see how her life pans out if she goes home with Ethan, or she could say, no, I'm gonna go home with my friend, and we see how Hannah's life pans out if she chooses to go home with her friend. I rated this, oh, I didn't even tell you what I rated the Inheritance Games. Let me go look. I think I rated it a 4-star. Yeah, I rated the Inheritance Games 4 stars, and then I rated Maybe in Another Life 3 stars. Then I literally just finished this last night, so technically I started it in September, but I finished it in October because currently it's October 6th. So it took me a while to read this book because it's kind of big. It's really not that big. It's like 380 something pages if you read all the extra stuff at the end, because there's an epilogue and an extended epilogue and an alternate chapter for chapter like 13 or something like that, and I read all of those. So if you read all those, it's like 388 pages or something. But I'm also just a slow reader, as I've said. But I read Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. This book is giant. It is not giant like thickness, like big, like huge, like it is so popular. This is some people's like favorite book of all time, or favorite romance book, and I rated it, I think I rated it a 4-star. And 4 stars, like I was probably, let's see, I was 345 pages in, and I was like, this is probably like a 3, like 3.5 maybe stars. Then you read after 345 to the end, not even the extended epilogue or all that kind of stuff, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'll bump it up to 4 stars because the ending is just so sweet. And yeah, so 4 stars. I rated 4 stars. This book is about Archer and Bree. As you can tell, Archer's voice. Archer is mute. He can't talk. He like doesn't have the capacity to do that. Throughout the whole entire book, most of his and Bree's dialogue is in italics because they're signing to each other. They're talking in sign language because they can't speak. And I thought that was really neat. But I don't know if this made anybody else feel this way, but it kind of made me feel weird because she was kind of treating him like a child, which he was like isolated like basically by himself for a really long time, so he does kind of have the common sense of a child, I guess. But she was like treating him like a child, but then it was like the scenes were so intimate. There are so many smutty scenes in this book, and I was a little uncomfy. I knew that they were adults, but she was just like coddling him and then they were like getting it on the next second, and I was like, I'm a little uncomfy. But anyways, their romance, their love story was really sweet, and the amount of love they have for each other is really sweet. And a majority of this book seemed pretty realistic. I didn't love it like other people do. It's not my favorite romance book of all time like it is others, but I did enjoy it and I finished it. I didn't DNF it. It took me a while to finish it, but those are all the books I read this month. That's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, go turn on my post notifications so you get notified every time I upload a video. Please go follow me on all my social media. They're always linked in the description down below. I would really appreciate it. I love you all so much. Thank you so much for watching, and I hopefully will see you in the next one. Bye.